Dear friends, welcome back to Data Analytics Talks. This is the second session of the Advanced Power BI Learning Series. In this session, I am going to focus on different usage scenarios of Power BI. Most often, we are good at creating visualization, creating data set, doing transformation, building dashboards and reports. But at least in some instances, I have seen we fail to set up the right Power BI ecosystem. It could be because we don't have the enough knowledge or exposure. Therefore, it is inevitable to understand different usage scenarios that we can adopt in our Power BI deployment or setup. So we are focusing on that today. Well, the Power BI ecosystem is diverse and can be implemented in different ways. All it depends on the size of the organization, the need of the audience, and your budget. You can choose Power BI Premium license, Pro license, Power BI Embed, all depends on the need. This video presents common usage scenarios to illustrate different ways Power BI may be deployed after your development. My objective here is not to call out every possible option for each usage scenarios. Rather, we can see some of the diagrams which illustrate the primary features. It's also highly likely that you will mix and match the ideas present in this video to formulate a Power BI strategy that fits your situation. It's also very possible that multiple Power BI strategies will be used by different departments or functional business units within an organization. It's also very important to understand some of the definitions and terminologies before we dive into the usage scenario. Most often we lack understanding about these terminologies and their definitions. So I would take little time to explain you the important terminologies in Power BI. We will start with Power BI. What's Power BI? It's a collection of software, services, applications, and connectors which facilitate the creation of reports and dashboards and the visual analysis of information. Then what is Power BI Desktop? I think most of us know. It's a Power BI Desktop is the authoring tool of choice for connecting, transforming, and modeling data, as well as for creating interactive reports. Power BI Desktop saves files in the .pbix format, and the Power BI Desktop can produce template files in the .pbit format. Then what is Power BI Service? The Power BI Service is a cloud-based service which supports collaboration, sharing, enterprise distribution, creation of dashboards, and additional functionality such as alerts. It can serve as a central location to consolidate distribution of dataset for content creators and reports, dashboards, and apps to consumers. So it can also be called as or referred to Power BI.com, Power BI Cloud Service, Power BI Web Portal, Power BI Web Service, or Power BI Site. Then you often hear Power BI Workspace. So a Power BI Workspace is a collaboration area within the Power BI service. A workspace is a distinct area separate from my workspace, dedicated to a specific team, subject area, or project. So you have seen my workspace and workspace. So there is difference between these two. Reports are published to a workspace so that colleagues can view the content, collaborate, and contribute as an appropriate. So what's Power BI app? Very important concept. A Power BI app is a set of packaged content in the Power BI service for the purpose of distributing related reports and dashboards to a larger base of consuming users. One Power BI app may be published for each workspace. Remember, you cannot publish multiple apps in a workspace. Then Power BI mobile apps. So Power BI mobile apps are native applications for iOS and Android for viewing content on a mobile device. Then we have the Power BI Windows application. So what is Power BI Windows application? So Power BI Windows application is available from Microsoft Store. It is an alternative for consuming content which has been published to the Power BI service. And it is particularly useful for rotating reports on display monitors. So you might be already heard about on-premise gateways. So what is it? I'm sure you have heard about the on-premises data gateway. What is it? The on-premise data gateway is an agent installed within the corporate network to allow secure access to organizational data stored on premises or within a corporate network. So from Power BI service, if you want to connect to your organizational data, so these gateways are required. There are two gateway modes, standard mode and personal mode. Then we want to understand what is Power BI Premium. You often hear Power BI Pro, Power BI Premium. What is the difference? So Power BI Premium is an offering that provides dedicated resources for reports, dashboards, and datasets within the Power BI service. This provides organizations more predictable performance, larger storage volume, larger dataset size, higher refresh rate, and incremental data refresh. The premium also enables widespread distribution of content without requiring a pro license for each read-only users. So if you have premium license, each users doesn't need to have pro license. Okay, moving on. We need to understand what is Power BI report server. You may not be able to always work with Power BI service. Then you will hear about Power BI report server. What is this Power BI report server? The Power BI report server is an alternative to the Power BI service for deploying Power BI reports within an on-premise data center as opposed to the cloud-based Power BI service. So Power BI reports are deployed and delivered in an on-premise portal alongside reporting services, paginated reports, Excel reports, and mobile reports. The intention of Power BI report server is not feature parity with Power BI service. Its intention is to be a straightforward report portal. Power BI embedded, very important concept. A Power BI embedded is a product intended for software vendors and developers that allow them to embed reports and dashboards into application. So if you have .NET application, you want to embed a Power BI report, the Power BI embedded is the right choice. So what is a Power BI embedded? It is a product intended for software vendors and developers that allows them to embed reports and dashboards into applications without the time and expense of building and maintaining visual analytics features themselves. So the Power BI Embedded is the companion capacity offering to Power BI Premium and is an Azure resource that runs on an hourly meter. It is an Azure resource and it runs on an hourly meter. Finally, we also need to understand Power Platform. You often hear this word, Power Platform. The collection of services including Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, AI Builder, and Power Virtual Agents is called Power Platform. So you are a Power Platform expert. You have to learn Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, AI Builder, and Power Virtual Agent. Yes, now we know some of the terminologies and their definition, right? If you ask me, what is Power BI? What is Power BI Workspace? What is Power BI Report Server? What is Power BI Service? What is Power BI Mobile Application? What is Power BI Windows Applications? And what is Power BI Gateways? What is Premium? What is Pro? And what is Power Platform? I am sure you have answers, right? Now we are going to look at various usage scenarios. So moving on, I am going to show you some of the usage scenarios. They are very common usage scenarios. I will be showing some diagrams and their illustration. Maybe this could help you identify some scenarios which you also may come across. I will start with personal BI. So what is that personal BI? The name suggests it is personal. With personal self-service BI scenario, content is created for personal use with no sharing, no collaboration involved. In personal BI scenario, the content author generally has lots of freedom and flexibility. Many Power BI users begin using the product for personal data analysis, then evolve to share their solution with colleagues. So slowly, they always start for their own purpose. Then they will evolve it and share with their colleagues. So at which time additional data and governance policies may become applicable. But initially, no, it's only personal use. This diagram gives you an overview of the primary Power BI components to support personal self-service BI without any sharing and collaboration. Here you look at, we have multiple checkpoints. So I am using Power BI for my personal use. I have the data sources. Then I use Power BI desktop to develop queries, data, and reports. Once developed, what will happen? It will be published to my workspace. My workspace, you can publish your personal reports and you cannot share with that. It could be dashboards, reports, workbooks, data set. You can also set up alerts. You can print, export, and download, but you can't share it. And even you can also see that reports in your mobile app. There, if your data is sitting in the on-premise organizational data, you can use Power BI data gateways. So when you look at these personal BI, you will see components like desktop, Power BI app, Power BI My Workspace, Power BI service, and on-premise gateways. This is good enough for a personal BI. The next is small team collaboration. So here you can see collaboration. So when a Power BI user has created a solution of value, it is time to collaborate with colleagues. It is no more a personal BI. This is sometimes thought as a bottom-up approach wherein a subject matter expert in the functional business unit drive the analytical initiatives of their team. So in this case, there is someone who is driving the analytical initiative and sharing the outcome with their colleagues. So this is no more a personal BI. It's a team collaboration BI. But the thing is, this is a small team. For small team scenario with a group of users who work closely together and interact regularly, collaboration and distribution could be handled directly within a workspace as depicted in the diagram. So I have mentioned you what is a workspace, right? The workspace is different from my workspace. Workspace is a place for collaboration. So in this case, the data modeler, the report designer will create reports, queries, and data, and he publishes to workspace the dashboards, reports, and workbooks. He may use the data set either from the organizational data or from the cloud itself. Then he can create alerts, subscriptions, and he can print and export it, download. But he can also create, very importantly, he can create workspace access. He can share these reports with his colleagues. Right? Again, they can modify the reports, they can consume the data set, they can view the reports, they can interact, they can edit. Right? So they can be workspace admin, they can be members and contributors. The same thing can be viewed by Power BI mobile apps too. Hope you understand the difference between personal BI and small team BI and what are the components that we need to choose for a small team collaboration. Now, let's look at a large team collaboration and distribution. So when team grows larger, it becomes impractical to use a workspace effectively for all report distribution, as was shown in the previous small team collaboration scenario. The best way to handle large team-based scenario is via the usage of workspace for collaboration and separate app for distributing content to a large group of people. Here we have brought in new components when it is in the large team collaboration distribution. So let's look closely here. So some are common, right? So we have data source, we have the Power BI desktop. The data modeler report designer will create queries, data and reports, and he will publish the .pbix file to the Power BI service and in the workspace. In the workspace, he can create dashboards, reports, workbooks, and data set, and he will provide a workspace access. And you can add your colleagues as admin members and collaborators to the workspace. You can publish an app, that was not there in the small team, right? Now, a new component is added, that is Power BI app. So in the app, you can publish contents like reports, workbooks, data set. Then you can set alert subscription. Then you can app access. So you can either give access to the workspace level. Also, you can give access to the app level. Okay. In the app, you can create audience and you can distribute to different groups. So then again, the things can be seen in mobile app. Again, you can do custom development using Power BI desktop or Excel. So from small team, we can distribute to large team using an additional component like Power BI app and more audience settings and access settings, etc. Hope now you understand personal BI, small team, large team. Let's move on to next level. So here comes the enterprise content distribution. I'm sure many of you are very, very keen on how to set up an enterprise content distribution scenario, right? So we've already seen how to use a personal BI, how to use a small group, how to use a large group. Finally, we have come to enterprise content distribution. It must be very interesting. Let's look into very closely. So in very large enterprise BI implementation often employ a top-down approach because it is common for the Power BI content to be largely created and maintained by a centralized IT or BI team. Yeah, I have seen many organizations which has a dedicated IT or BI team. At enterprise level reporting scenarios commonly have a significantly large number of read-only users who just consume the content compared to a much smaller number of authors who create content to publish for others. That is really true. As I said, in the organization, they will have a small IT team, but the consumers are huge. A common way to cost effectively support organizational enterprise level reporting is via the use of Power BI Premium. So the last three scenarios that we have already seen never used Power BI Premium. At enterprise level content distribution scenario, we are bringing a new component which is premium capacity one. So it is good to have a close look at the enterprise content distribution diagram. So in this diagram, we can see that the data modeler or report designer is sitting in between the Power BI desktop and Power BI report builder. So in the enterprise scenario, we not only use the Power BI desktop, we also use Power BI report builder. For what? The Power BI desktop is used for building queries, creating data, then reports, whereas Power BI report builder is using for paginated reports. And if you closely look, the Power BI files are with extension PBIX, and paginated report has an extension RDL. Where is the data coming? Data can come from either from the cloud or coming from the organizational data. If you are using organizational data, they should use the gateways. If you don't organizational data, it is coming from cloud, there is no need for any gateway. You can directly use queries and data mashups. The building part is complete here. Then what will happen? Then once the development is complete, it will be published to Power BI service with premium capacity. Not that premium capacity. Again, it is going to save the costs. And we have workspaces. Then in the workspace, we have data dashboard, Power BI reports, PageNet reports, workbook, data set, and data flows. And this Power BI workspace can be shared with the colleagues or team. They co-author reports and dashboards. Again, using additional Power BI desktops or Excel. Okay. Then again, as I already mentioned, the distribution is through Power BI app. In the app, you can publish the Power BI reports, PageNet reports, workbooks, and datasets. Using the app access, it is distributed to the end users. Also, it can be consumed using Active Directory B2B and include the guest users too. So it involves additional capacity administrator who is managing the capacity, the load, the performance, and so on. So the enterprise content distribution is entirely different from a personal BI distribution scenario. Hope this makes sense. Okay, let's move on. So we have some more scenarios to be covered quickly. So in the previous scenario, we discussed about enterprise content distribution, whereas now we are going to see how do we create a shared Power BI data set. Another way we call a centralized data set for the corporate reporting. So there are several options for implementing centralized data set. See, this is one of the scenario in which a Power BI shared data set is reused among many different Power BI reports. And this approach facilitates delegating or decentralizing the report development activities to functional business users via usage of centralized source data. So let me show you what happens in this diagram. So we have sources from cloud as well as from on-premise or organizational data. There is a data modeler who is responsible for modeling the data and creating a data set. So once he creates the data set, he pushes the data set to a workspace. Again, that extension is PBIX. And this data set becomes a shared data set which is consumed by different set of people. And using this workspace access, there is a data management team who is able to manage or update this data set and publish again and again into this workspace. And there is a report designer who is consuming the data from this shared data set and creating a report, and they publish to one of the workspace. This is one of the workspace. And there is another report management team. Again, they are consuming this data set and creating some dashboards and reports and publishing to workspace 2. So we have workspace 1, we have workspace 2. Then what happens? Then the workspace 2 publishes an app and workspace 1 also publishes another app. There is 2 apps. Okay. What happens? Then we have view users, multiple sets of view users. One set is consuming one app and another set is consuming the second app. The concept is there is a shared data set which is modeled after the data and which is again consumed by multiple designers and being published to multiple workspace and published as apps and consumed by different audiences, right? So this is the concept of centralized data set for corporate reporting. I hope this is really helping you. So if you are using a centralized data set, you are separating your visualization from the data set. The data set does not contain any visualization. It is just table, modeling, and columns. Even the measures will go into the reports or dashboards. Cool. Let's move on. So before closing, I would like to show you a scenario which is suitable for prototyping or sharing activities. In that case, you may not need an enterprise level setup or a centralized data set, neither a large or small team level. So for that, you simply need the data source and the data set, and you are the modeler or designer. You can simply download a Power BI desktop, you connect to your data, then you create queries, data, and reports in a single file. Then you can push to a workspace because you want to share it. No, you are doing a prototype, you want to share with your colleagues, then you go for a workspace and not my workspace. And of course, you will need to publish that in Power BI service. Then you can share the output with any recipient as read-only. For creating a prototype or sharing approach, you need a very, very minimum setup in the Power BI that you can do it very simply. So we have discussed multiple scenarios, which is good for a personal BI or a small team, large team, enterprise team, and also how we can share a common data set for very different teams so that the data is consolidated a one-stop source. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope this is really helping you and you are able to take away something. If you please leave a comment and also subscribe this channel. Thank you. Thank you very much.